Hello and welcome back to HD Racing. Today we are back in Forza Motorsport because I really wanted to check out the newly added GT4 series, but I have to say I was quite disappointed by it, and we'll have to talk about that today. But I also want to show you two of the races that I did in this series so that you get an idea of what this is about and, well, just see for yourself if that would be something that you would enjoy. But also definitely let me know if you already tried it, what your experience is with the GT4 series and with Forza Motorsports in general right now, because that's also something we want to talk about. There are some weird decisions made by Turn 10 right now that I don't quite get and that I don't think are very good for the game. But first let's take a look at this first race. We are in the KTM Crossbow GT4 and on Lime Rock, as you can clearly see. And I qualified for this one, decided why not. It's a 19-player lobby, so decent. I was really struggling to find lobbies that actually had some players in it. This was one of them, and I qualified in third place, so kind of decent. And let's just see how this goes in the beginning. So from a driving perspective, I can already say the GT4s feel okay, but not quite like I would expect GT4s to feel if you know them from other games like ACC or Race Room. There's just something off that I can't quite pinpoint. Once again, if you have any experience with that, let me know in the comments if you know what's happening, as I almost punt the guy in front of the track. That would have been really bad. Luckily it wasn't that bad and he did catch his car and kept it on track. But yeah, just wanted to try the KTM at first, always a car that I wanted to try and never got the chance when it still was the old GT category, but now we are in the GT4 category, so it was one of the cars available, so I decided to hop into that. And that's already something we need to talk about. Why are there only 3 cars available for this GT4 series, which is now a fixed part of the rotation of the featured multiplayer series, it seems like. Both GT3, which probably has the most cars, and GT2, which has a decent amount of cars, have some selection, have some cars to choose from. And by the way, as the other KTM here goes very wide on the first corner, and I managed to sneak by. And yeah, let's look at that right now. Can't really see what's going on behind because I don't have a mirror in this car, and the virtual mirror is still not working for me. That seems to be a known bug because it should be available now in every camera perspective. It isn't for me. Might be because of my widescreen. I've read something there in the known bugs, but still a little bit unsure why that is. It would have been really helpful in this car to have the virtual mirror enabled in this view, but alas, it's not there. There was something going on behind because I am now 1.5 seconds ahead of the guy in P2, who wasn't really all that much slower, it seemed like. So not quite sure what was going on. But yeah, I will have quite the opportunity now here to just drive on my own in the very front. And, well, we'll skip ahead at some point because you will see it's not that much that's going on in this race. But to finish my point on the amount of cars in this series, as I said, GT3, GT2 have a decent selection. That's fine. I was okay with seeing that they split that, the old GT series, into 2. Okay. But the GT4 series for me doesn't make any sense. There are 3 cars available, 2 of which are actual GT4s. This one and the Ginetta, which we're going to take a look at in the next race. And the other one is the Audi TT RS, I think it was called. So the one that was weirdly added to GT series like probably 4 or 5 months ago, which didn't make sense because it's a front-wheel drive car. And again, it doesn't make sense to put that into the GT4 series because GT cars are typically rear-wheel drive cars. So not quite sure what this is about. Maybe they just needed some other car to put in this series because for some reason they still don't have any other GT4 cars in game, which is fine. I would like to have more GT4 cars in game, but if there aren't, okay, but why then add this GT4 series? I really don't know. That's, as I said, the first thing that really baffles me here. But it is what it is. So if you enjoy the cars that are available here, I think this series is okay. For everyone else who just doesn't like the lack of variety here, or just doesn't like the 3 cars that are available, well, you're out of luck for the whole week, because, well, this whole thing, it's fixed now. It's part of the rotation, and there are no GT2 or GT3 races available right now. You could see that we skipped ahead a little bit, quite far actually, to lap 14, because here was the point where things at least got a little more interesting. I was just driving on my own until I made that mistake, went a little bit wide on the first corner, and, well, getting on the grass here on Lime Rock on that corner just loses you so much time that in the end I actually was not able to keep my first place here. I would have liked to, but just, yeah, I don't know if I was getting bored or was just losing some concentration, but yeah. In the end, we're gonna skip to the end screen here in a moment, because nothing much is going on the rest of this race. In the end, finished in P2. So as I said, even though this lobby was kind of full with 19 players, still the racing wasn't all that fun. So for the next one, I decided to take the Ginetta, because seemingly no one else was driving it. Maybe this is a paid car, I'm not quite sure. But yeah, for some reason everyone's just driving the KTM or the Audi. And also for this next race I decided, because once again it was a little bit of a smaller lobby with only 11 players, let's just start from the back. And let's see if that leads to a little bit more interesting racing. As I said, we'll see. Once again in this race, I think in the last one there was no Ginetta at all. And in this one, I think I was one of 2. So yeah, as I said, maybe it has something to do with availability of this car. I'm not quite sure. I had it. I'm not quite sure where from. So yeah, might be that it was part of car pass or something else. That's the reason no one is picking it. Or maybe it's because on paper, in terms of PI, this seems to be the worst car. But I don't think it really is. I think it has worse launch than the other cars, but it's still fine if you tune the gears a little bit. By the way, tuning, if you're interested, both the tune for the KTM and for this Ginetta I will put for you at the end of the video if you want to try them out. I don't think they're very good. I mean, I was able to work with them decently, but I didn't spend a whole lot of time fine-tuning, so take this with a grain of salt, try them out and see for yourself if you like them. By the way, look at the maneuver I'm trying here. I really shouldn't have done that. I was really wanting to go on the inside here, but then seemingly forgot that I needed to brake. For some reason the KTM then completely lost it on the exit there, and I was lucky that he was ghosted, or got ghosted at the last second, because otherwise that would have been a big crash. So we're making our way very slowly through the field, so I wasn't really sure if it was really possible when starting from the back to even get to somewhere towards the front. I also hindered myself, I think, a little bit by choosing hard tires for this race. Last race I was just going mediums, doing one pit stop and then switching to mediums once again. For this race I was like only 14 laps of this, which is barely over a minute. That could or should be actually possible to do on hard tires. We'll see if I was right on that, but it's one thing that also, of course, will be a little bit more difficult to overtake here. And, well, this was really unfortunate. The KTM in front lost his car. The only thing I was seeing was smoke. I should have looked at his nameplate, because that was actually still where his car was, but in the moment I really wasn't sure where he was. I was trying to avoid him by going to the left, but that was actually where his car was, because he seemingly was able to catch it, which I didn't expect, and well, I did definitely bump him off the track there. I'm not 100% sure that 4.5 second penalty is now warranted. Yes, of course I did punt him, but he lost his car beforehand and was very slow there. It was difficult to avoid, especially also because of the smoke. I probably could have if I was a little bit more aware that the nameplate was there, and then maybe could have gone around, but I wasn't, so yeah. And now I also have to deal with this penalty. So we'll see if I can even get any good position here. But at least there is still some racing, some fighting ahead going on, because I started in the back and there are still some players in front of me, so let's see what we can do. So let's KTM in front, seemingly also a little bit slow, so I'm trying to find an opportunity here to pass him. Wasn't really sure that I was gonna get on his inside there, so I decided to try around the outside. Didn't really work, so maybe we can find another opportunity. And while we do that, there is another thing that I want to talk about. But first, maybe let's quickly touch upon the feeling of driving these cars once again. So, as I said, don't really gel with these cars 100%, I have to say. The KTM was probably the most stable of the two. It was good to drive, like no complaints really, but I wasn't sure why it was still sliding around as much as it was. This guy trying to rejoin the track without looking that I'm also there. And now he's also very slow, so yeah, luckily I make myself past him here. But yeah, KTM, as I said, did feel okay. This Ginetta, it definitely felt like it had more rotation overall, but it still was understeering quite a lot in certain places. I was trying to get that out by tuning the car, but I'm not quite sure if I was 100% successful here. Once again, it was fine to drive. These cars are definitely easier to drive than especially the GT2s, I would say, and even the GT3s for most cars, I think. But overall, as I said, not quite gelling with how these cars drive in Forza Motorsport. But yeah, let's now get to the other topic that I want to talk about. Apart from the fact that I'm really baffled by this edition of the GT4 series when there are no, or just 3 maybe cars available for this series, is also the addition of all the other multiplayer series that we now have. If you take a look in the multiplayer browser, at the moment there are 10 different race classes to choose from. 3 in the featured tab, with also a 60-minute endurance race, which I tried once and there was barely anyone, and the advertised multi-class was there because no one was picking the slower classes. So I was in a GT car there and wanted to have a little bit of fun in multi-class, but there were only prototypes. And so I was basically in a class of my own, and that really didn't make sense to me, so I decided to not race there. And yeah, those races, not quite sure what to make of them. Like the addition of multi-class, I don't feel like is a good thing for Forza Motorsport, but that's just a feeling right now. I haven't tried it all that much. What I do know is that they added too many series to the multiplayer. There are now 10 series in total. Set 3 in the featured, 3 in the spec series, and 4 series in the open class, with 1 multi-class and 3 specific, like P class, S class, what have you. I don't get why they did that. The player base of Forza Motorsport right now, I feel, is at quite a low point. I don't feel like there are that many people still playing Forza Motorsport. Why would you think that adding more series to multiplayer is a good idea right now? Because what happens is that you spread the already not that big player base so thin that you basically don't get full lobbies anymore. I tried today probably about 5 or 6 races. That 19 car race that you saw in the KTM right before this one was the only one that was kind of full. Every other lobby that I had I was lucky if there were 10 people in it. I had some lobbies where there were really few people. I also had one where I was completely alone. There was someone else in the beginning while practice was still ongoing. When it was coming to the race, I was the only one left in the lobby. And all the other lobbies, as I said, I was lucky if we were actually 10 people. And that just doesn't lead to good racing. So there are fixes to actually having their matchmaking work better and look at the safety and skill rating a little bit more to have a bit more, well, matching lobbies, I guess. Already made it so that some lobbies weren't all that full. And Well, now with this many lobbies available in multiplayer altogether, I don't think this is a good idea. And yeah, I'm not quite sure why Turn 10 is pushing Forza Motorsport in this direction. I mean, they have some ideas seemingly what they want to do with the game, but I'm not quite sure they're actually looking at the whole picture and doing what's best for the game and its player base. Some of the decisions, as I said, really baffle me. And yeah, I'm not quite sure if you have the same experience, if you're even still playing Forza Motorsport. Maybe, yeah, let me know in the comments what's going on with your racing. Do you even do multiplayer? Like, I know that some people also just enjoy single player, and that's totally fine. That's just not for me. I don't enjoy the single player experience in Forza Motorsport. So I just stick to multiplayer, and if lobbies are not full and the racing is not good, then I'm not quite sure that this is something that has longevity for me. And I'm quite sad about that, I have to say. I don't want to come off as overly negative here. Forza Motorsport has made some good improvements. Turn 10 made some decisions that were good. I'm so happy that the car radar is finally here. That really helps people like me who drive in cockpit perspective. And also some other things that they did, namely trying to fix the matchmaking. I think it's a good decision made from like the right angle. I'm just not quite sure that in addition to all the other things that they're doing, that it has a net positive effect on the multiplayer of Forza Motorsport. And then there's still things that are still clearly broken. As I said, don't have a virtual mirror, even though I should have one from what I've read in the patch notes. Might be just a known bug, but then again, why is that still there? And yeah, the amount of racing series and adding something like this, like a GT4 series with just 3 cars available, I'm not quite sure what they were thinking. And also, yeah, additional multi-class, I'm still very unsure that this is in any way, shape or form a good idea for Forza Motorsport. Both in terms of just actually having someone to race against, if lobbies aren't balanced, that there are people in every class, and then are people in Forza Motorsport really able to do proper multi-class racing? Because overtaking slower cars is somewhat of an art, I would say, or at least it requires good driving and looking out for other people, and I'm not quite sure that the general Forza Motorsport multiplayer drivers are able to properly do that. So for now I'm gonna stay clear of doing any multi-class racing, I have to say. As I said, tried once and it wasn't multi-class at all. It was just one class with me in a different class. That's not fun. But yeah, I think we've talked about that enough. Let's try and focus a little bit on the racing that we have here. As you were able to see, I was able to overtake some people, some other people pitted, because as I said, I decided to go with hard tires, and while I thought this Ginetta was also on hard tires and we were maybe able to have a good fight, that was actually not the case. Or he just decided that he didn't want to drive his hard tires till the end. But I would suspect that he most likely was also on mediums, like a lot of other people. And well, most people I actually did overtake because they went to the pits. And while my tires are starting to get into the zone where they will have tire degradation and they already feel a little bit degraded, it's just 3 laps now, I think. Yeah, we're in lap 12, so it's not that long, and that should definitely be possible. Looking at the delta, the next guy behind me is 13 seconds away, so let's actually skip ahead to the last lap. And as you can see, I'm still over 12 seconds ahead of the next guy, even though I have really short tires and I have a big penalty. There's just nothing that can happen anymore. We are almost at the finish line. So once again, while the beginning of this race was a little more interesting than the first one, it still wasn't amazing, and I was just driving on my own for a lot of it. And I don't know, that's not all that fun for me, I have to say. So overall, my experience in the GT4s is really mixed, and I tend to lean more towards the side that I don't enjoy these as much as I would have hoped I would, because in other games I really like the GT4s. But yeah, that's all that I want to say on that front. I think I've talked a lot about all the different things that really go through my head right now while looking at Forza Motorsport and playing it. In the background you're seeing the tunes for the two cars that we were just driving. As I said, they are not perfect. I didn't spend a whole lot of time with them. So yeah, take them with a grain of salt. But yeah, other than that, let me know in the comments what are your thoughts on the whole situation with Forza Motorsport, both with this GT4 series and with what's going on in Forza Motorsport in general right now. Definitely want to hear from you and let me know what your experience is. But I think I've rambled on for long enough now. I want to thank you a lot for watching. I've been HD Racing, and I will hopefully see you in the next one.